Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you with the most up-to-date political, economic, and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in. Okay, happy Wednesday, everybody. Today's episode is being filmed at Auckland International Airport. They've been very kind in giving me a small room to record. I'm heading back to China, where I'm normally based. Because I'm filming in a different location, there may be a bit of an echo. I hope this is not too distracting. My apologies in advance. The Institute of Finance at the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, CAS, a leading government-linked think tank in Beijing, has published its Q3 macroeconomic financial analysis report. The report is making quite a buzz online as it calls for issuing 2 trillion yuan in special government bonds to support the establishment of a stock market stabilization fund. The fund would promote market stability through the buying and selling of blue-chip stocks and exchange-traded funds. The report also called for special government bonds for basic livelihood protection. Quote, increase central government investment in pensions, childcare, education, healthcare, and affordable housing to alleviate concerns of the middle-income group and accelerate the development of growth-oriented consumption, end quote, as well as anchoring monetary policy to inflation targets. Quote, as the monetary policy cycles of China and the US converge, monetary policy should focus on countering deflation risks and promoting moderate price increases, utilize the space for interest rate cuts and reserve requirement ratio reductions fully, to enhance the rule-based and transparent operation of monetary policy. It is necessary to announce the inflation indicators and targets that the central bank focuses on. End quotes. Now, this is an official leading policy think tank, so these policy suggestions should be taken seriously. Meanwhile, according to official data from the National Bureau of Statistics published yesterday, Tuesday, the jobless rate for 16 through 24-year-olds in China, excluding students, fell to 17.6% in September from 18.8% a month prior. Unemployment among young people and college graduates jumped from 13.2% in June to 17.1% in July, as some 12 million students entered the labour market. Youth unemployment hit a record high of 21.3% in June last year, prompting China to halt publication of the closely watched benchmark until that change was made. We followed all this at the time. Now, this is a politically sensitive area, so we take these numbers with a grain of salt. We also note that even the official unemployment rate remains much higher than officials would like. As one senior official warned last year, frustrated unemployed young people is what topples governments. And so this issue has been made a priority among many priorities facing economic policymakers. Next up, this week US-based The Wall Street Journal published a long report discussing how the revival of the Pacific airfield on Tinian Island, where the US launched the atomic bombings of Japan during World War II, reflects a strategic shift in how the US military plans to counter potential threats from China. In the past, the US relied on a few large air bases, but China's expanding missile capabilities make these bases vulnerable. The US Air Force is now dispersing its warplanes across various airfields throughout the Indo-Pacific to reduce the risk of being targeted by China's missile arsenal. This strategy, known as Agile Combat Employment, ACE, is central to the Tinian Revival project. Crews from the US Air Force have been clearing the jungle to restore the airstrips, explains the outlet, encountering challenging conditions such as thick foliage, extreme humidity, and swamps of insects. The project is part of a larger strategy to identify and upgrade airstrips across the region that can be used in case of conflict. These could include full military bases, remote airstrips, or even civilian airports. The goal is to keep US aircraft moving between locations to evade potential missile strikes, making it harder for China to concentrate its firepower on one target. While the concept seems simple, its execution is complicated, reports the outlet. Dispersing aircraft across multiple locations requires an extensive supply network to ensure planes can be maintained, refueled, and armed across a wide area. Furthermore, spreading aircraft too far from the battlefield may reduce their effectiveness in combat, so a balance must be struck between dispersal and operational utility. Tinian is just one of the many sites being upgraded under the ACE strategy. In addition to reshoring North Field, the US is expanding the island's international airport to serve as a secondary fuel hub in case the nearby base on Guam is incapacitated. Similar projects are underway across the Indo-Pacific, including in the Philippines, where the US is enhancing military sites as part of agreements with local governments. The US is also upgrading airfields in northern Australia to accommodate B-52 bombers and increase its strategic reach. The revival of these airfields and the broader ACE strategy aims to make US forces less predictable and more resilient to a first strike from China. By spreading aircraft across small locations, the US hopes to reduce the chances that a single missile attack could cripple its air power. This approach also introduces uncertainty for China's military planners, forcing them to consider the possibility that US forces could strike from multiple unpredictable locations. The US military's shift in strategy is driven by the increasing threat posed by China's military modernization, particularly its missile capabilities. China has developed an array of missiles capable of reaching US bases in the region, including Kadena Air Base in Japan and Andersen Air Force Base in Guam. By dispersing its forces, the US aims to mitigate the risk of a concentrated missile strike and maintain its ability to power projection in a conflict. The restoration of Tiananmen's airfield is part of a broader US effort to adapt to the changing military landscape in the Indo-Pacific. By dispersing its forces, upgrading infrastructure, and strengthening alliances, the US hopes to counter China's growing military capabilities and maintain its strategic advantage in the region. However, the success of this strategy will depend on overcoming logistical challenges and securing the necessary diplomatic agreements with regional partners. Next up, we have one more development to cover, but just quickly, if you are getting some value from today's episode, as always, don't forget to hit the like button. Liking, sharing and subscribing is a tremendous help. It's the only thing I ask if you enjoy these episodes. Thank you so much, everybody, for the ongoing support. A recent nationwide survey found that nearly 60% of people aged 60 and over in mainland China are so-called empty nesters, a rise of over 10% in the past decade. Many of these elderly individuals say they cannot afford to live in their homes. The Ministry of Civil Affairs conducts this survey every 5 years, and it also revealed that older adults are becoming less reliant on their children, partly due to the one-child policy. By 2021, the average household had 2.6 children, down from the previous years. The survey, which included 130,000 people aged 60 and above, found that nearly half of those willing to move into new homes could only afford up to 1,000 yuan, $140 a month. This makes most facilities, especially in major cities like Beijing and Shanghai, unaffordable, as costs in those areas exceed 5,000 yuan per month, 5 times that amount. The report highlighted that China's traditional model of elderly care, where children support their parents, is facing major challenges. With this growing number of so-called empty nest elderly, the country needs improved care services and policies. China's slowing economy is also grappling with an aging population and shrinking workforce generally. This is well documented and has been covered on here many times in the past, and will likely be covered many more times in the future. In 2023, 21% of the population was aged 60 or above, and the number of people aged 65 and older reached over 217 million. By 2035, the share of people aged 60 and over is expected to rise to nearly a third of the population. The survey also revealed a significant income gap between urban and rural seniors, with urban residents earning an average of 47,000 yuan annually, compared to 14,000 yuan in rural areas. Pensions are the primary income source, but with the state pension fund predicted to run out by 2035, the government is encouraging those over 60 to stay in the workforce. In 2021, 19% of people aged 60 to 69 were employed, up from 5 years earlier. The government is also promoting volunteerism among seniors through the Silver Age Action Initiative, which encourages older people to participate in community activities like childcare, senior care, and assisting disadvantaged children in rural areas. Zhao Yuwen, a 62-year-old from Jiangsu, speaking to Hong Kong-based The South China Morning Post, works part-time in restaurants to help support her son's family. Although she doesn't live with them, she feels satisfied being able to assist financially, writes the outlet. Zhao also mentioned she cannot afford a nursing home and plans to remain at home as she ages. Whether the cost is put on the state or on families themselves, China's aging population represents one of the biggest risks for China's long-term growth and dynamism. This will be a story that we will continue to follow closely in the years to come. Okay, that is today's episode of China Update. Thank you for bearing with me at the airport here. If all goes well with my flight, we'll have regular episodes again from tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Have a good Wednesday. Thank you for watching. And if all goes to plan, I will see you all back for more China Update tomorrow.